Nintendo does not publish the most games, but regularly we are responsible for the most popular games. This is the Nintendo difference.
It is May 16th, 2001. After being in the market since 1996, Nintendo's main console, the Nintendo 64, was about to finish its life cycle. That day, after first announcing the Space World 2000, Nintendo would be fully showcasing their new home console, the Nintendo GameCube, and many new games that were announced, with the headline being Super Smash Bros. Melee, a game that shocked people back then and still does today. How did we get here? Super Smash Bros. Is one of Nintendo's main franchises and has been on every console since the Nintendo 64. Created by developer Masahiro Sakurai, Smash was a 4-player fighting game with many of Nintendo's most iconic characters. However, due to the unlikeliness of Nintendo letting him use their characters, he was ready to create a version with generic net characters known as Dragon King the fighting game. But unexpectedly, Nintendo decided to approve of this new idea without knowing, creating the biggest crossover event in all of history. Super Smash Bros. Was released on May 4th, 1999 to a warm response by critics and players. While the concept of fighting with beloved Nintendo characters was what drew people to the game, the experience is what kept people playing. Sakurai wanted to make something that stood out from traditional fighting games and achieved this with the core purpose of the game. Normally in fighting games, players damage each other in order to deplete the other's health, with the win objective being depleting your rival health bar to zero. In Smash, damage instead increases the knockback that your opponent takes, with the win condition on launch your opponent off screen. With this change in formula, an entirely new form of fighting game was born. Instead of prioritizing complex button combinations and precise spacing, Smash focuses on movement and platforming, mechanics that were not considered in any other fighting games. Sakurai wanted to give these players a different experience every time they played. This created a game with an incredibly divergent outcome, which resulted in dynamic, unpredictable gameplay. A game simple to learn, but among the hardest to master. And while 64 would be the grand opening of the series, the perfect game would be achieved with Melee. Perfection is a concept which I like to think of as a beautiful lie. It gives us hope to keep improving until we can reach it, when in reality, this is impossible. But what is possible is to take those broken pieces and fix them up together. The perfection that Melee achieves is no doubt had a hard time getting there. Development was pretty rocky with Sakurai and his team at HAL Laboratory given only 13 months in order to make this entirely new game on an entirely new engine for an entirely new console. What came out of it was this accidental masterpiece. Melee sped up all of the game, faster movement, combos, attacks. This new rapid pace contributes to the already dynamic and unpredictable gameplay and gives the players such an immense amount of control over their own character. But back to the release, Melee became a hit, seeing as it is now the best-selling GameCube game. But unknowingly, what would push Melee to that masterpiece status would be its loose ends. Many of Melee's mechanics such as wave dashing, L canceling, among others, form the basis of one of the most complex and greatest competitive games of all time, and push the game to a deeper level than anybody could have thought. But how does this all matter? Why should anybody care about this? Melee is just a game, and while some of these things sound interesting, it doesn't explain why people would still be playing 19 years later. I have no doubts that some of you may be thinking like this, and it's true. I've been going on and on about this game, but there's a question that still hasn't been answered. How did we get here? Things aren't created or destroyed, but transformed. A part of being the law of concentration of energy, it's a phrase you hear but often doesn't make sense, so let's give it some sense. Going back to what Smash is a 4-player fighting game where you beat each other up with beloved Nintendo characters. Around this time, Smash became more than that. If you were to deconstruct Smash, you see that what it does is takes the element of 2D platformers and combines them with those of fighting games to transform all of this into a new form of fighting game. Smash isn't exactly a new creation, but a new view of the two types of games that it is based on. It transformed the view people previously had on fighting games by mixing it with 2D platformers. Now, if we were to go into gameplay, Melee is a game where, even if I'm not good at it, I'm able to experience a lot of what it offers. It shows me what it has, so I can use it to learn to play in a way that fits me. To get what I mean with this, we have to understand the function of games. Games can have several functions, sometimes as toys and other times as sports. But what separates any game from a sport is its depth. Most games, much like toys, tend to be one-dimensional and lack the capability of being approached in different ways. And mainly this isn't the case. Melee has a set of characters with their own souls each one that while having a specific use, if you can think outside the box, you can find many other ways for it to be used that were previously unknown. This gives Smash not only the actual structure but the feel of sports, which is why it has such a loyal competitive community. A community which has fought against people who don't even consider Smash a true fighting game, future Smash games, a lack of support from Nintendo, and even now with a pandemic in order to keep the game alive. I think this is what makes Melee stick with so many of us. As players, once we found this, we realized the opportunity it gave us to create something, to make it play how we want it to. Akin to taking the rules out of a game and making a new game with it. Melee was never meant to be what it has now become, but whether Sakurai wanted it or not, it became that. Not a game about fighting, but about transforming. We got here because we took what he gave us and made it our way. We got here because we made Melee our own game.